Okay, so we talked about what cybersecurity is all about, but other than that, we must also mention what are the prerequisites for learning cybersecurity and getting a job in the cybersecurity field. Notice how I said field. That's right. Cybersecurity is a field and not a single job position. Matter of fact, there are multiple positions when it comes to security. All of them are focused on certain tasks. For example, we have someone covering application security, the other person can be focused on network security or network engineering so that certain parts of network are protected as much as possible. We also have people that are called ethical hackers or penetration testers. Now, they pretty much do the same thing that black hat hackers do, but they do it in order to discover vulnerabilities on the system and let the administrators know so they can patch those vulnerabilities. These are just some of the roles, and we will talk about roles in more details later in the course. Right now, we want to focus on prerequisites that you should be familiar with when it comes to security. Now, this particular course requires no prerequisites at all in order to follow, but there are certain things that are certainly a big plus and that will allow you to follow this course and learn cybersecurity much smoother. One of those things is to be familiar with networking. You want to know how networks are structured, what different types of protocols are there. You also want to be familiar with all of those protocols. You want to know, for example, what TCP is, what UDP is, or what ARP is, and many other protocols used. You at least want to know what they are and how they work. Of course, you don't need to know all of this in details, but going over it once or twice will be really helpful for the course and after it. Now, don't worry if you have no idea what this is. We will have additional resources in the course where you can read about networking in general. Another thing that someone who wants to be in cybersecurity field should know are operating systems. You want to know the structure of Windows, Linux, or Mac OS. Being familiar with all three will boost your skills and expand on which systems you can work on. Perhaps the company that hires you uses iMacs in their office, so even if you were the best security expert when it comes to Windows, for example, it won't be much of a use if entire company uses Macs. Different security measures and principles for all of those operating systems is something that we will also cover later in the course. Another thing that might be important when applying for a job are certificates. Now, even though certificates are important and they can be used to measure your skill, they're not always needed. Sometimes you can land a job without any certificate at all. Their main purpose could be when company wants to hire someone and they can't decide who to hire. If there are two of you applying and you don't have any certificate, the company will probably choose the other person even though you might have more knowledge. Some of the most known certificates are Security Plus, Network Plus, CEH or Certified Ethical Hacker, and there are many more other than that. Now, some of the more advanced things that you want to learn along the way are, for example, programming. Even though it's not crucial to learn it, programming can boost your skills in anything you do regarding security. Knowing how to code also gives you in-depth knowledge on how things work, which then allows you to understand everything better. I would actually advise you to start learning a programming language at the same time while watching this course. Now, it is not needed at all, but it will help you a lot later, and if you decide to work in a different field, you will find it highly useful. If you are already a programmer, then you're already ahead. Great job. Another thing that you want to master along the way are the tools that we use. Tools nowadays are an important part of anyone's career. We want to automate things so we don't have to sit and waste hours and hours on something that can take a few minutes to do with appropriate tools. Same thing applies to cybersecurity. There are a bunch of tools that help us do something that we need to do, and we will cover some of those important tools. But you should never limit yourself to only using these, and you want to expand your tools collection more and more throughout your journey. And last thing that we will mention that you want to master before applying for a job is you want to focus on security for one specific thing. In other words, once learning the basics, focus on mastering, for example, cloud security, or network security, or mobile security. Whichever you find most interesting for you is the one to dive in. Okay, awesome. Don't worry if you don't have any knowledge of what we mentioned in this lecture. With time, you will learn everything. And remember, for this course, none of the previous mentioned things are needed. Most of the things we will cover with basics inside the course, but there are a few things that we won't cover at all, such as programming, since it is out of the aspect for cybersecurity. With time, you will slowly learn all of this, and I'm sure that one day you will become a really good cybersecurity expert. Nonetheless, now that we know what things are important to learn when it comes to cybersecurity, let's get straight into the next video where we will discuss different paths that you can take in this field.